joining. One of the other reasons why I wanted to do one of these is to give you an example of starting this coming month in December. We're beginning to do weekly live streams at a site that I just started not too long ago called the Drum Corner, and it's at drumcorner.net. And it's we won't have time to talk about it right this second. I'll talk about it at the end of the stream, but it's an interesting idea for a drum education website because, well, I'll save all that for you. It's an incredible community that we're building there where you can learn to play not just drums, but learn to play music behind the drums. And it's a great hangout spot, too. That's what we're creating, is a hangout spot on the internet that's safe and family-friendly and free of trolls and other things that would discourage you from playing drums and letting other people hear you play drums and play music. So today, as I promised, we're going to be talking about some things that you can do to enhance your groove, to manipulate your groove. More than anything, that's a large thing that I want to be able to show you, is how to manipulate your groove, because there's more than one way to play any type of beat that you're thinking of. Now, if you're any of my professional drummer friends, this is a lot more like 101 stuff, but hopefully you'll get something out of this. For all my other friends that both old and new, that are either new to the drums or you really haven't been playing a long, long time, this is going to be a real revelation for you, because all of the feel, all of the pocket or the groove, you hear those catchphrases that we use all the time. Musicians just throw them out there like they're candy at a parade. Man, do they still do that? Throw candy at the parades? I used to do that when I was growing up. But they just throw those words around without really telling young musicians what that stuff really means. But there are ways that you can manipulate any groove for any song, not just for the entire song, but for sections of a song, and enhance the feel. And if anything, you can actually put a really musical stamp that is completely your own by using these techniques. So we're going to talk about those things today, and because of the way that things are set up, I've got a few different cameras. I can show you some things from there, and when I don't have this ugly mic stand in the way, next time, you will be able to see things. So I'm just going to run through while we're checking everything. You'll see that we've got some cool angles. You can pretty much see everything 360 degrees around the drum set, including over the top. So anytime I'm doing live web stream lessons at Drum Corner, anytime I'm doing these that are free here, we'll be able to you'll be able to see everything you need to see from whatever angle you need to see it from. And with the taped lessons, we actually use 8 cameras, so it's even more in depth in terms of where you can kind of get in and see the things that you need to see. But so let's talk about just a basic rock groove for a second, because when I have students come in, this is pretty close. When I say play me a basic rock beat, this is close to what I get most of the time. All right, so a lot of it is the hi-hat at one volume, usually a little bit too loud, and everything feels really stiff and regimented. Everything feels very static. And one of the first things that I do with a student that has any experience playing the drums at all is we start to look at motion. We start to look at movement and the things that we can do to enhance the way or shape the way that we move around the drums. So instead of hammering nails over here on the hi-hat, I'm going to show you very quickly a technique about 98% of the internet has gotten wrong. So if you're looking at YouTube and you look up things like molar technique, I'll just go on record as saying, as someone who studied for a good while with Jim Chapin, and Jim's probably the only person I've ever sat at my house and drank scotch with. In fact, I know he's the only person. I spent a lot of time studying the molar technique, and working with Jim on these kind of things, and getting into the intricacies. A lot of what you see on the internet is third-hand information. But let me show you how we're going to take one of these techniques and we're going to shape it a little bit. We're going to go outside the molar technique a second to give you a little something. So in the molar technique, we don't really have time to really go through that entire thing here, but there will be a whole course on that gets deep into molar on Drum Corner. With the molar technique, there is a stroke called the downstroke. And if you think of just kind of having a string on your wrist, sort of like this, we're actually going to pick up from the string so that we've got this pivot point. And then we're gonna, at the top of that stroke, we're gonna snap that wrist. Now, most of the internet is gonna tell you that this is a typical kind of molar thing. Let me go over to this camera so you can see it. But this, where you just sort of throw the stick down at the hi-hat or the snare drum. You just throw the thing down and pick it back up and throw it down and pick it back up, and sort of in a haphazard way. In fact, there's a pretty noted drum teacher. I saw a lesson of his the other day, and that's pretty much the whole lesson on molar was throw the stick down, let it bounce a few times, and pick it back up. That's not the molar technique. What we're going to do here is with the typical downstroke. It's hard to do on the hi-hat, but you can definitely do it on the snare. The idea is that the stick rebounds back to where it started. Jim called that stop at the top. Well, we can't run around the drum set playing stop at the top all the time because it would make a mess, and it doesn't allow us to be in the positions we need to be for whatever's coming after that stroke. So we're going to use a thing, if we use the power of the whip for the top of the stroke, but then we just be less pliable to the rebound, we can do what's called a controlled stroke. So this is where I'm going to get the power of that whip, but because I'm not allowing for the rebound, I keep the hand really soft, and I don't accept any of that recoil that happens from hitting the surface. I'm in position for what Jim would have called an upstroke. And simply, an upstroke is a hit going away. And this is the difference in 98% of the video lessons I've seen online about molar. The upstroke is a stroke. It's a hit going away. It's not the stick falling into the drum or the cymbal. It's a hit going away. So as I'm lifting, there's a stroke there. So I'm going to play a controlled stroke with that downstroke whip in it. And then I'm going to play an actual upstroke where we've got a hit going away. And that's important because I would say 120% of the students that I've ever come in contact with, and a lot of drummers that I see that purport using molar, when they're playing these sorts of organically accented hi-hat lines or lines around the drums, the placement of those inside notes tends to be real haphazard because they're just letting the stick fall back to the drum or the cymbal. In this case, because I'm actually playing a hit going away from the hi-hat out of that controlled stroke, I can place that thing exactly where I want it. Let me show you the difference. Let me show you the difference. I'll have to keep track of which camera I'm in. So if I pull up a metronome real quick, we're just going to put on some really, really basic eighth notes. Hopefully we can hear this. Beautiful. We're going to slow that down though. All right, so if I'm just letting the stick fall back and fall against the hi-hat when I'm coming up, it's a lot harder to time any of that. But if I'm very deliberate with both of those strokes, I can make sure, even at that slow tempo, that hi-hat on the upbeat is going to land in the right place. I'm not just letting that stick lazily hit the hi-hat. All right? As I get faster, it's even more imperative. What happens with a lot of younger players or players that really haven't learned about the inside of the beat is that they're just letting that inner note hit whenever it flops back into the surface. But this is about being very deliberate, being very purposeful. I'm hitting as I'm going away from the hi-hat. So that creates this natural accent instead of, which would be a one-to-one kind of motion with the wrist stroke there. I'm playing that controlled sort of molar downstroke with that upstroke, that hit going away. Now, the thing you want to do is you want to play some music with that. I think a lot of times when we're playing the drums, I'll try and look over my shoulder every once in a while and make sure we got comments happening here. A lot of times when we're playing the drums, we think that we've got to have all four limbs and our mind working for us to actually be learning to do something. If we're playing one stroke, one single solitary stroke on any one surface, we're learning how to play this instrument. We're learning how to touch this instrument. We're learning how to elicit sounds out of this instrument. And so the idea that I would just put on some music, and I've got some royalty-free music of all kinds of different sorts over here on my Pro Tools rig I'm going to play. And I'm just going to play this down-up kind of pattern along with this music so that you can see and hear what it looks like in a context. Again, I'm going to apologize because I'm an audio person. I'm going to apologize for this noise the entire time we're doing this. All right. So I'm going to play. It's just a very basic R&B kind of thing. All right, so here's our quarter note right there. If I'm practicing my controlled stroke with that molar whip, that's how I would practice that. I would start at the bottom, pick it up, and control it all the way through to the end of the stroke, staying loose in the hand. Now I'm going to add that upbeat. Might as well do it with the left hand as well. See if I can not hit the mic stand. So even at this smaller height, I'm still playing the exact same kind of motion. Trying not to hit the mic stand. All right, now. What we're going to do now is I'm going to switch that and put that accent on the upbeat. All right, so check it out. So instead of this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, we're going to go and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 1, 2. And the thing you want to do as you're working on that and making sure the notes land in the right place and that you stay in time with the track or whatever music you're listening to, you also want to listen to the sound of that against the track. Notice how some of those accented upbeats fall with the bass. Boom. Up, up. And some of those notes will fall with the vocal. Notice how things line up. And the whole time you've got to be able to count this 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you really want to have a little bit extra to work on, try more than just down and up in different kinds of note groupings. So I could do this. 1, 2. Back that up. So I'm going to do a recurring pattern of 3 notes for a specific amount of time, and then I'm going to resolve it so it stays in the phrase with the music. So check out how this falls with the music. 1, 2, 3. So there I'm putting 3s as long as I can go, and then putting an extra one in to turn it around. 2, 3, 4. And some of it falls with the music. And so you might think, well, Brian, that's not really practicing drums. It's practicing the hi-hat. Well, that's part of this entire thing that is playing the drum set. We're actually sitting here trying to elicit sounds out of the drum set. And in this case, I'm trying to get these kinds of sounds out of the hi-hat that are loud and soft sounds and put them in different places inside of the beat, different places inside of the bar, different places inside of the phrase of the music. So I'm just concentrating on one surface and one limb, because when we break it down to that sort of a minute focus, we really can have laser-like focus on being able to make sure very quickly that that's the right thing, that it's the right thing in the right time, and you're not practicing something that's wrong and not realizing it's wrong because you're practicing 3 other things with it. You've got a bass drum foot going, a snare drum hand going, and whatever else happening. I'm just focusing on that hand that's playing the hi-hat. I'm focusing on that motion. I'm focusing on my relaxation and my breathing, all those things. And this is what, to me, makes practice so much more interesting, because if the objective were just to play one loud note and one soft note, that takes about 45 seconds at the most to learn to do that. But to learn to really get inside the nuance of what it means to play this musically in time takes a lot more time. So, all right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut the mic off for a second, and I'm going to play a groove that probably doesn't match this track to start with, because I want to keep it simple for you. If you're more towards the beginner or younger intermediate, I don't want to give you something that out of the box is going to be hard for you to play and you have to think too much about. I'm going to take a basic rock groove of just 1 and 3 on the kick, 2 and 4 on the snare, and those 8th notes on the hi-hat. I'm going to show you the 3 ways that I can play that groove that have 3 very different kinds of feel, and they impose different things onto the track as we're playing. So I'm using the track like I would use a metronome. Normally, I would probably practice with a metronome first. We're going to shortcut the process just a little bit, and I'm going to actually go ahead and do this to a track. And after I do it with this basic groove, we'll find a groove that fits the track a little bit more, and I'll show you the same thing. And I'm going to get this wireless mic working, because that stinks. All right. right there, 3 different ways I can play that basic groove over that track. One that just gives me a full stroke on every hi-hat. That has a certain feel to it. That's not wrong. If that's what you're already playing as a beginner and intermediate player, that's not wrong to play a groove like that. People will tell you all day long, this is corny and stiff. It's only corny and stiff if it's in the wrong song, with the wrong feel, at the wrong time. In the right tune, that might be the perfect feel. But you've got choices, you've got options. So when I play with that accent, on the downbeat, I can add weight to the groove. If I'm playing rock music, this is perfect. If I'm playing a rock groove and I really want to give it a lot of weight, I want to give it a lot of heft. By accenting those downbeats, all of a sudden it just makes it feel heavier, especially if you let the hi-hat come open just a little. Just lift your toe just a little bit. And if I'm playing something like this, it's more like an R&B kind of feel. Man, it gives such lift to be able to play those upbeats. But let's talk about playing those upbeats for a second, because the trick, if you're a beginner to intermediate player, is you've got a couple of things happening at the same time that feel like opposing forces. It's easy to play that down, 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 down when we've got both hands going down. But when we're playing the upbeats as our accented note, we actually have 2 things going on. We've got, not only do we have the up beat of the actual pulse being played as a downstroke. When we play that inside note, that upbeat hit going away, we're going up in the right hand and down in the left hand. So you got to get comfortable with that so that you're not thinking about it. So to just really break it down to the most easiest basic thing you can do, you're going to play a backbeat just like you normally would. You'll notice I'm using that same kind of molar control stroke, molar styled control stroke. I'm going to be very, people use that word, man, and you're going to hear me be very conscious and cognizant of how I'm using the word molar. It is a molar styled or a molar influenced controlled stroke because I'm not letting the stick come back up. So I'm going to play that in my left hand while I'm actually coming up from the hi-hat. It's going to feel goofy. It's going to feel weird at first. So as this hand's going down, as soon as I get to where I've got clearance, I'm going to come up with the right hand. It's going to look really weird to isolate it like this, but you've got to get comfortable with this idea of going in 2 different directions with the hands. At first, I'm not going to hit the hi-hat at all. I'm just going to send my right hand up into the air. Trying to hit this drum in a way that doesn't overload this mic, since I've got to keep it open. Anyway, once you get comfortable with just lifting the right hand on your backbeat, and if you want, you really want to get goofy with it, put a kick and a snare in there. It's going to feel weird, but that's what the practice room is for. The practice room is to do all those weird-looking, weird-feeling things so that you can begin to carve that trench of that feeling into your brain and into your muscle memory so that as I'm playing that backbeat, I'm comfortable with the idea of the right stick in the right hand going the opposite direction from the left stick in the left hand. One's going down, one's going up. So once you get comfortable with that, then you can infuse that into that pattern and try not to think so much about the hit going away. In our mind, it's a throwaway note. We're putting our emphasis on the upbeat that has the accent. But in actuality, we've already trained our muscle memory. It's not a throwaway note. It's just that our brain doesn't have to process that. It's just like when you're reading a sentence, you don't have to think about the entire alphabet for each individual letter. In fact, a lot of times when you're reading or you're hearing someone speak and you're interacting with language, you hear an entire sentence and all of the individual letters in all of those individual groupings make a whole lot of sense to you, because the word drumstick is not just a bunch of pieces of an alphabet. It's a code, and this is sort of a physical code that once you get this into your brain in relationship to where the beat is, I don't have to think about the entirety of this word. If I think of that word as having two parts, it's almost like the word, like if the word was at and there's a capital A and a small t. Capital A is that accented note. The small or the lowercase t is that hit going away. It's just the word at. And I'm only thinking about, now that it's in my muscle memory, I'm only thinking of it as that one group, that one word. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. All right. So, the next thing would be the idea of a hit with the bass drum and the downstroke. That's pretty common. We do that a lot. But the idea also of playing a loud bass drum note as I'm softly going away from the hi-hat. All right. So if I put that into a basic 4/4 kind of groove, I've got to get comfortable with that bass drum, the foot going down as the hand's going up. Thanks, Timothy. So just as we practice that motion, of the bass drum going down as the bass drum beater, or our foot going down to make the bass drum beater go forward, as we're coming up from the hi-hat, that makes it a lot more comfortable to infuse that accent on the upbeat. You get the choreography wired into your brain, and then you just automatically eventually begins to wire into how you play. Down, up. That's when I put 2 bass drum notes on each one of those motions. Down, up. Down, up. Down, up. Want to make sure, at least for the way that I'm playing that groove, that both bass drum notes get the exact same amount of force. They get the exact same amount of volume, so that it doesn't sound like I'm accenting the bass drum note for this and then coming off of it from there, so that it ends up going. Especially with that kind of groove. I'm going to see if I can do this. It would sound really weird to go. I can't even do that. That feels so weird. Yeah, that feels weird to actually try and make myself do that. But the idea is that we've got to develop this independence of the right hand and the right foot. It's not loud for loud, loud for loud. We've got a loud note and a loud note, a soft note and a loud note. Those are happening right next to each other. So you got to practice that choreography. Up, down, up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, Same volume in the bass drum. Exact same volume in the bass drum. I'm going to play around with these overlays as we're doing this too. So, I have a friend of mine who's not a drummer who said, Brian, as you're doing these things, it's wonderful you're doing them. It's wonderful you're advertising your site. But what about for, let me use this one instead. That's a little less descriptive. My buddy Mark said, well, what about somebody like me that either I enjoy just watching these things or, my 12-year-old who plays drums, he can't come up and see you for a lesson, and he's not ready for you to be able to have him as a subscription member at Drum Corner. How can I just send you a few things? You can always tip. Tips are very much appreciated, especially as we get this endeavor off the ground. So if you'd like to help with my pension plan, and there's right on the screen at the bottom, there's the different digital payment platforms. If you'd like to send a tip, if you're getting something out of this, especially as we get into it here in a second, please by all means feel free. It helps to offset the cost of these things, like the new camera that's going to replace this one over my shoulder tomorrow to get rid of the GoPro and get these nice crystal clear images that we've got with a couple of these other cameras. That stuff doesn't make itself happen. So anyway, let me play a groove for a second that's going to be more akin to what I should play with this track and show you these different hi-hat moves with the track. So I'll play something that's more appropriate, and you'll see how this, the way that we tailor the hi-hat can really change the drive and the feel of this thing. So there you have it. There's 3 different ways that you can play that groove, and you can be able to choose what's going to work for that situation. You can choose, and this is where you put your stamp of musical goodness on a tune. The way I decide to play that hi-hat is going to start me down a road that helps me to shape how I play within that piece of music. So all of a sudden, I can start to make this thing more me and what feels right for me inside of this music by doing something as simple as just manipulating this one voice. So before I move to the next thing I want to do, which is try this with a different kind of track or a faster track, we've got things to give away, and I know that I can't see names of people right now that are jumping in on the live stream, but we do have a few things we're giving away. We got a couple of different pairs of these Chris Adler 5AX Promark drumsticks that we're going to be giving away today, and all you have to do is just leave a comment at the bottom of this video. Just, hey, man, that's all you have to do. Just leave a comment at the bottom. And that's going to put you into the raffle. I'm going to put all those names in a hat. We're going to pull out a name, and we're going to send them a pair of drumsticks. We got a couple of pairs of drumsticks to do that. And one of the 2 DVDs that we're giving away today. Since all I'm talking about today is grooves and how to manipulate grooves, we're giving away, we'll show this one to this camera, since that camera's right over my shoulder. I'm giving away a whole DVD on fills and chops because I'm not doing them today. I'm only doing groove stuff today. So if you'll put in the comments fills and chops, that will put you in the hat for the DVD giveaway that I'll give away after this webcast is over with. I'll just live cast it from my phone or something. I don't know. We'll put the names in a hat. So if you'd like to be in that drawing for the Fills and Chops DVD that is courtesy of our friends at Hudson Music, flip it over and show Hudson Music. That's courtesy of those guys. Just put Fills and Chops in the, and I want to see Fills and Chops, Fills and Chops. Hey, JR, good to see you, man. Hey, Diane. Kill the sticks. Oh, kill the click, you mean? Yeah, I can kill the click. Yeah, I can do that for sure. I don't need it, not for that. So yeah, Fills and Chops, and how about I go back to the camera that has my face on it so I can show you that. Fills and Chops, and you can get entered into the drawing. I have a bigger one I want to give away though. So I'm going to leave this, warts and all, I'm going to leave this video up so that you can share it with your friends. If you've got drummer friends that you think could benefit from this little live lesson that we're doing today, if you share the video, I'm going to put your name in a very specific hat. I'm going to give everybody 24 hours. There we go. I see some Fills and Chops. Yeah. Go ahead, Diane. Go ahead, Will. Yeah. John, Fills and Chops, Fills and Chops. If you put Fills and Chops, you'll also get entered for the drumsticks as well. Any comment will get you entered for the drumsticks, Fills and Chops specifically for that DVD. But if you will, I'm going to do this. I liked this. This was cool. This is cool. I could do this. If you will share this video with your friends on your Facebook wall, you will get entered for this box set. This is 4 DVDs, I believe. 4 disc set. I'm sure you guys still have DVD players, right? Or computers that have DVDs. Anyway, this is Modern Drummer Festival 2008, and it is chock full of some amazing players, including Todd Suckerman, Thomas Pridgeon, Bill Stewart, Derek Roddy, who's a metal guy, Simon Phillips, Ndugu, the great, rest in peace, the great Ndugu Chancellor, Will Calhoun, Gavin Harrison, Billy Ward, and Daphnis Prieto. The only reason I saved his name for last is because I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, it's almost 12 solid hours of good content. So if over the next 24 hours, if you will share this video, share it with your friends, share it inside of any of the Facebook groups, I can actually get a list of all the shares, so I can put your name in the hat for this Modern Drummer 2008 Festival DVD box set. 4 DVDs, 12 hours worth of stuff from our friends at Hudson Music. And yeah, so all you got to do is just share the video. If you don't want to do any of those, if you don't want to start a subscription at drumcorner.net, but you dig what you're seeing here, if you want to hit one of the payment platforms down there, you know, the Venmo. Let's see if I can do this. It's backwards for me. Venmo or PayPal or Cash App. You can always throw a little coffee money in there, or as I like to call it, I've got to do this. As I call it, it's my, I can't get down there. It's my pension plan. It's my tip jar pension plan. All right, I'm going to play this with a faster track. We talked enough. Look at this. So many people. Thank y'all for putting comments in there. Fills and Chops, Fills and Chops. All right, so I'm going to, here's another, this is kind of a medium funk tune. Let's see how this sort of thing is really going to transform the groove for this song. going to change the groove for all my beginner and intermediate folks. Instead of playing something that follows the track, I'm just going to play a static thing, a 4 on the floor. Check it out. We use all 3 of those. Happy when we get this wireless thing happening so I can just click it with my foot. So that's that track. 3 completely different ways. Now, is any one of them wrong or right? I don't know. You got to tell me. If I'm recording for a producer, I'll give them the options. I'll say, here's the way I hear it, and I'll play the choice that I think works, which for me is the upbeats. I like the upbeats. But depending on what else is in the track, there's a little bit of a percussion-y kind of drum machine stuff that's laced in there really deep in the track. Maybe it conflicts with something that's in the programming, and all of a sudden, if I play those upbeats, I'm stepping on top of that. If I play the downbeats, maybe it makes it too heavy. Maybe I need to play, and this we haven't talked about. Right now, I'm just playing nice, strong accents so you can hear the difference. But then the real subtle thing becomes, well, I can play any one of those at different volumes and keep the kick and the snare the exact same volume so that I can manipulate how much weight that hi-hat is giving to this overall groove. I can play that down up on the downbeats, that and keep my kick and the snare the same, and that weight has a much more subtle effect. It doesn't feel as rock and roll in the track. It just gives a nice anchor to that 4 on the floor feel. By the same token, if I've got a lot of programming swimming around, but I want to push forward some of the stuff that's in the programming, I might hit those upbeats, but not hammer in the upbeats. Bring the whole thing down. In fact, let me see if I can do that from here. Hang on a second. Let's see. Go to the mixer. No. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to pull this loop up a little. So that you hear it. It's got a lot of that upbeat. If I want to make that come out, I can just do it subtly in the hi-hat. So there you go. I just by bringing everything down, I can make the hi-hat have a more subtle effect to what's going on with the kick and the snare. It still has the effect of either giving weight or giving lift or giving forward momentum. That straight hi-hat thing's not wrong. It's just a different kind of feel. It's a different kind of momentum. And I have to decide, is that the momentum that I want to hear, that I want to see in this track? Or do I want to hear and see something different? And so, again, I would take, initially when you're practicing this stuff, take it and work on different kinds of music. Maybe take something that, like in this case, this music is very static. There's just 4 and 8 bar phrases that repeat, so I'm not really having to think about a composition. I'm only thinking about my placement in time with these groove pieces. And I'm really listening. Recording yourself helps. I'll watch this lesson back. I'll actually go back, pull this lesson up, and watch it for myself, and I'll listen not only to myself playing these things to see how they affect the groove, but I'll also look at my placement in terms of where I am on the beat. Maybe I'll listen back and go, yeah, you could lay that back a little bit better and it feel better, or get on top of the beat more and it feel a little bit better. That's a different lesson for a different time, though. Anyway, I'm going to put up my tips overlay again so that my friend Mark will be able to do what he asked me to do. So he'll know where to go to put a tip in there. If you want to put a tip in, feel free, just a tip. Chills and flops. Thank you there, Shannon. Of course, you moved to the front of the list on that. All right, so I think it's a bad cable is the reason that this wireless didn't work today. All right, so that's 2 very different tempos in sort of both in a feel that's got kind of an R&B-ish feel to it. But I wanted to leave you with a couple of options for music that was more acoustic instrument based. So I've got a couple of things on here that are more country tinged that I'm going to pull up for a second. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to play a very basic groove, and we're going to see how we can take the hi-hat and manipulate the feel, both in terms of where we put those stress points of those accents, using that Moeller-inspired controlled accent and those upbeats. And let's just see how I'm pulling these up here. Memory locations. Oh, wait, I have to do a faster one for you. I did include this one specifically because it was faster. Let's check this out. So there you go. 3 different ways of playing that 4-on-the-4 groove with those different accent patterns. Now, in this case, in some of the programming, I pulled it down a little bit, but you'll notice there was an upbeat hi-hat in the programming for that track. So what I might normally do as the drummer, my choice on a track like this is already done in the programming. And so if I do it on top of that, it's either going to flam and get weird, or it's just going to cancel it out and it's not going to really enhance the feel. So for me, one of 2 choices seem like the optimal thing to do. Either I'm going to just play those straighter eighth notes and bring it down below the level of the programming so that the programming does that upbeat lift. Let the hi-hat programming do it. Or, for me, what I thought was probably the best for the track was open up the hi-hat and accent the downbeat and give it a nice weighty, wide downbeat. So not only was I accenting that hi-hat, I actually lifted my toes so I get a little length on the note, as opposed to this. I'll play it again for you in a second. You can hear the difference. So if I do that and I put the weight there, and I put the weight on the downbeat, and I just lift my toe ever so slightly, all of a sudden I add more weight to the 4 on the floor. I give it more forward momentum and more of a hefty push, and I let the programmed hi-hat handle all of that gospel-y. I let it handle that. So I'll play that through one more time so that you can hear it. If you don't already know, if you came into the webcast late, we're giving away stuff. Any comment that you leave puts you in the drawing for a couple of pairs of these Promark Chris Adler 5AX sticks. It's a cool 5A stick with sort of an acorn tip, and it's a little bit longer than a regular 5A. It's got a little more reach to it. It's a good feeling stick, especially if you like a stick that rebounds off of the drum and cymbal really, really well. Great stick. So any comment will get you in the drawing for that. If you put, I'm going to use this camera again because this is so fun. All right, so if you put fills and chops, or like my Shannon put, my buddy Shannon put, he put chills and flops, which is kind of how I feel most days. Like I got the chills and the flop sweats. Fills and chops will get you in the hat for the giveaway on the Hudson Music DVD. And if you share this with your friends, or you share this into any of the Facebook groups, that's going to put you into this drawing for this Modern Drummer Festival 2008 DVD box set. 4 DVDs, almost 12 hours worth of content, so that you'll be able to get some of the world's greatest drummers and hear them play, hear them talk about playing. It's an awesome package. So I'm going to play that track again real quick for you. You can hear those feels. I just want to keep going even though the track is stopping. so so that's, you can tell. And in fact, if I were to have to put a drum track to this, I may change my approach from section to section, just like I would in verses and choruses. I may put the straight hi-hat thing where the wacky sax thing comes in. That sounds kind of cool having this going because it's got some drive, it's got some angst to it. Kind of adds to the frenetic quality of that saxophone. For when the low stuff, that stuff is the more predominant thing in the track, I may go to the heavier hi-hat sound with those downbeats. Now, there were some sections where the hi-hat dropped out and the programmed hi-hat. Maybe that's where I go to the upbeats. So I pick up where it left off, but because my timbre is different, it's not going to sound exactly the same. So these are the kind of things I'm listening for when I'm putting drums on a track. I'm listening for the things that are going on inside the track to decide how I'm going to shape the hi-hat from section to section, especially if the underlying groove doesn't change. Those are the subtle things that you can do to make these songs have a contour to them. If all somebody needed you to do was this, they could buy a drum loop, or they could program it themselves, or heck, they could probably even play it themselves. But to make those musical decisions about these different sounds, these different things that you want to. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. To be able to put these different things inside of a song and to be able to shape the contour of the feel of the sections, to give lift, to give heft, to be able to lay things back. These are all very subtle decisions that you're able to make them musically after the physical part isn't a problem anymore. And it starts with what we talked about at the beginning of the video. It's the technique for being able to access those sounds and being comfortable with those, then being able to land them in time consistently so that when you put them inside a kick, snare, hat groove, then what you do up here doesn't affect the placement of the stuff down here. This stuff can stay rock solid. This stuff can float on top, and it can help to create different contours in the groove. So I'm going to pick one of these country tunes to do this with, so you hear it in the context of something a little more organic. I'm wondering, this snare drum is definitely not the right one for this sound. We won't change it out. It's a great sound of snare drum, by the way, if you want to know what I'm using today. So the drums today, you've really only heard the kick drum and the snare drum. The kick drum is a 24-inch USA Custom Gretsch that sounds flippin' amazing. And then the snare drum, if I take this overlay off, you can kind of see it, is a Gretsch 6.5x14 hammered brass snare drum. It's got a lot of pop to it. Man, it's got a ton of pop, especially where I've got it tuned. And then cymbal-wise, you're mostly hearing hi-hats and crashes today, but all the cymbals that I've got are up today in the main positions here. I've got 15-inch Modern Essential Formula 602 hi-hats, an 18-inch crash, a 20-inch crash that's just chocolatey, like all craziness, man. It's like going to a fine chocolatier and they hand you a cymbal. And then a 22-inch ride cymbal. And I haven't hit it yet, I don't think today, but there's over here, if I go to the other camera, you can definitely see it. Right in the other camera. This is not a 602. This is what Peisty calls their Swiss crash, because it looks like Swiss cheese. It's my trash sound. Great accent cymbal. Fabulous, fabulous accent cymbal. So, and then the toms, which you haven't heard, are actually new classic toms. I purposefully not hit them today because I blew them out. I think I shot these heads this weekend with the sessions I was doing. It's time for a head change, especially this one. Yeah, I think that's that dent right there that's doing it. Anyway, so that's the gear, just in case you're wondering what I'm playing on today. I'm going to pick one of these two country tunes. One doesn't have a click because it wasn't cut with a click. And I'm wondering if maybe that's the one I want to try because that's going to be harder to do. But let's see. I'll play a little of both of them. Oh, why not? Well, you can hear the differences. There's some odd bars in there. That was the other reason I didn't pick that one. I kind of like this one. And maybe move to this one in the chorus. Go to this other one. You can hear it in this as well. This one actually does have to play
it. Not long ago, you got hurt. Someone did you wrong. I can see it in your eyes. It's like your fire is gone. Across your face, it is written across your face. If you wanna talk, I'm right here, not gonna leave your side. Just feel free to open up when the moment's right. Across your face, it is written across your face. If you wanna go out, we can go out. You can hide away just for one night. But if you wanna cry, just let it out. I'm by your side now. Just hold on a bit more, 'cause I know you only see the rain, not the rainbow. Deep down, I know you're strong. Give them hell, baby, prove them wrong. Just hold on a bit more, 'cause I know you only see the rain, not the rainbow. I know you'll get up again. Gotta stand up tall, I know you can be brave, brave, brave. I know you can be brave, brave, brave. I know we did you wrong, wish I could.
So yeah, if I were cutting drums on that one, I'd probably go through those iterations, and I would see which ones felt best in different sections. Especially when there's nothing but that vocal and a pad. That upbeat feels really good. Gives it a nice push. In some of the chorus sections where there's a bunch of other stuff happening that are filling up the time, I like that the accent on the downbeats and just kind of giving it a lot of weight as you're going. And then for verses, just keep the thing moving forward. So there's 3 different ways to take essentially the same groove in these more organic kinds of country tunes, and be able to manipulate the time, manipulate the feel, and manipulate what your groove is going to do. Is it going to push the thing forward? Is it going to give it some lift? Is it going to give it some weight and lay it back and relax it? That's all things that you can do with this one instrument. And once you get those motions down, the choreography of hitting a drum on a controlled downstroke, hitting as you're going away on that timed up stroke, all of those things are going to allow you to be able to make choices, musical choices, that all of a sudden are going to have a huge, huge difference in the overall sound. And it's going to change how other players play. I can guarantee you that. I'm playing along with some tracks that are already pre-recorded today, but the thing that always happens either on the bandstand or in the studio is the moment that I make those decisions. And I learned a long time ago, the moment I do something that shapes the groove in a certain way, it's going to change the way that other players will play. So for me, these are really important choices. Here, you can hear the difference, and it makes a difference in the way the track sits. But when you've got other live musicians that are having to react to that, that's when the real power of this comes in, because I make that choice. I put that groove in a certain place and give it a certain feel, a certain weight, or a certain lift, or a certain push. And now all the other musicians, they're going to decide to do different things to enhance that feel, to enhance what that's doing for the song. And all of a sudden, then you've got something special. You're capturing some lightning in a bottle at that point, because then musicians are listening to each other and playing off of each other. And whether it's in a session where everybody's cutting together, or if we're stacking parts, I'll send my drum tracks off. The bass player will go to put his stuff on. He'll do something different because of what I did to affect the groove. And then the two of us together, that consolidation of musical foundation will then cause guitar players and keyboard players and singers and everyone else to do things differently. And it really does affect the end product as well. So I hope that you got a lot out of this. I know we've gone for, over an hour at this point. And we may do this same kind of lesson on YouTube this evening, so I can check that connection, and we're going to fix this wireless mic. And for me, run through using all of this gear again. But for here on Facebook, and I'll make sure I put my overlay in there so that we get a little bit of advertisement there. Part of the reason why I'm doing these is just to see you and say hey and show you some things and play little drums. But also give you an idea of what some of the live lessons on the drumcorner.net website are like. Weekly, we're doing weekly live streams that are real similar to this. My computer's going to move over there so I can see the comments a little bit better. But the idea of having this real-time interaction, you guys can ask questions. I can respond to you on those. And there's another level of interactivity that we're going to bring into the live lessons even later, where we can actually bring people in and have them play stuff. It's going to be cool. We're doing a lot of cool things on the Drum Corner site that you haven't seen on any other drum lesson website. And anyway, I don't want to spill the beans too much on that yet. That's January. That's coming, the live interactive lessons. Anyway, by all means, make sure you put some kind of comment in the comment box to get in for the drawing on the drumsticks. If you'll put Fills and Chops, I think it is, in the comments, you'll get entered for the drawing for the DVD from Hudson Music, the Fills and Chops DVD. I have to do this because this is such a cool camera thing. So you put Fills and Chops in, and you'll get entered for the Fills and Chops DVD. There you go. And if you'll share this video, and the more times you share it, I will say that the more times you share it, the more entries you will get into this drawing for this box set of Modern Drummer Festival 2008 that's chock full of almost a dozen. In fact, if you add Carmine Appice to it, a dozen different fabulous drummers, almost a dozen hours worth of concert and instructional goodness across 4 DVDs. And if you don't have a DVD to play it on, it's a reason to meet your neighbor. You can go next door and sit in their living room and watch it. Anyway, so that is all that I've got for you today. Thank you so much for sitting in on the live stream. And I'm going to be doing a free one of these, hopefully once a week, even if it's for just 30 minutes, coming on and showing you a cool thing that you can try and talking about some drum stuff, or showing you a drummer, a cymbal that I want you to hear. We're going to do more live streaming stuff, especially once I get my wireless mic and foot mute thing all worked out. We're going to get all of that happening. And I really appreciate your time. It's not lost on me that we have a finite amount of time, and the fact that you would spend even 5 minutes of it watching this video. I'm really very appreciative of that. It is not lost on me, believe me. And for those of you who aren't drummers, and my friend Mark, who keep asking me how to do something nice, there's all the digital payment platforms. I'm calling it my pension plan tip jar. But if you like these lessons and you want me to do more of these and play more, I'll bring more songs on to play. I'll do something to entertain you. I won't dance and I won't juggle, but I'll find some reason to be entertaining for you. You can always hit me up with a little something on the Venmo or the PayPal or the Cash App. I would greatly appreciate that. That goes right into the pension plan. That should say car note, car note tip jar. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. We're just getting things cooking with the Drum Corner. There's some courses up there already. I'm going to take some time, maybe tonight or tomorrow, up in the studio upstairs to show you a little more, talk to you a little bit more about Drum Corner. We'll do that separately. We're going to do some things on that site that you've not seen on any drum educational website ever that I think are really, really cool. So that's all I got for you now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. And until I see you again, until we get a chance to talk again, until we have some way that we can interact in person, this will have to do. But until next time, I guess I'll see you when I see you.